Welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast, where your host, Josh Sweeney, will give you, the business leaders, HR professionals, and company culture aficionados, the knowledge you need to take your company culture to the next level.
Hi, my name is Josh Sweeney, and welcome to the Epic Company Culture Podcast. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Prototype Prime for giving us this amazing podcasting room. If you haven't been there, Prototype Prime is a technology co-working space in Peachtree Corners, Georgia. So when you get a moment, stop by and check that out. For today's podcast, I am going to talk about company culture and how it is impacted via the office space that you choose. So I'm going to start off with Actually, I'm going to start off with Prototype Prime since we're already here because it's a great example. So office space is one of those things that gives people a good vibe, a bad vibe, or, some people just don't care, right? Some people are heads down and, whether they're at a desk or a table or what their office environment is like, doesn't impact their role or job or outlook. A lot of other people, it has a very, very heavy impact on how well their day goes. So an example of this would be if you are a small business and you get office space at a co-working space or a incubator or some other, kind of group type office space similar to Prototype Prime, technology co-working. Then when you come in, you're going to get a very specific vibe that needs to match your company and should match your company, but will be unique to you as well. So we're going to start off with sharing a little bit about Prototype Prime, where we're at right now. If you are a business owner or small business, startup, whatever it might be, and you choose to work from Prototype Prime, then you are immediately conveying a certain ideal about your culture. When you work into this space, one, it's in what I would say a semi-suburban atmosphere, right? It's outside the perimeter in the Atlanta area. So it's more towards the suburbs. Parking's free, right? So nobody has to pay for parking. You're outside the perimeter, again, free parking. And when you walk in, there's lots of art everywhere. So there's street art. There's amazing, well-known Atlanta street artists that have painted Prototype Prime and robots and things on the wall. So the robots, I think, play into that technology vibe, right? This is a technology co-working space. You're working with other technologists. It's also very open environment. So you got an open floor plan, stand desks, podcast room, and a certain amount of amenities that are built into it. So you get a very specific vibe and culture just via the space that you're in. Another example of this that I really enjoy of the co-working side and how that injects culture into your company is Atlanta Tech Village. So that's one of the most well-known ones in Atlanta, over 100,000 square feet, I believe, like roughly 4-story building. And the thing about ATV or Atlanta Tech Village, they inject culture because they have so many events and other things that happen that your company just becomes a part of. So instead of you having to schedule as a company a Friday lunch that you do and go get the food and find it, and maybe you only have 10 people in your company, or maybe you have 100, and you have to coordinate all of this and it's in your office environment, Atlanta Tech Village does a free lunch Friday for all of its members and their employees, and it's on a recurring basis. So they're injecting this camaraderie and collaboration and environment where you can get together with other people from other companies, other departments, whatever it might be, and break bread together, right? You can have a meal. And they're taking care of the coordination. So that's injecting a certain collaborative culture automatically just by being in that space. Same thing with their rooftop events. So they have a beautiful rooftop overlooking Buckhead, and they have events, whether they're mixers or socials. They also have other events around that are educational. So that becomes part of your culture. And then all you have to do is stack on top of that your unique pieces to your business. So it's really amazing to see, like when you look at a co-working space, often people look at them and say, okay, I need this because I need a desk to start my company, right? You need a place to go, a place to meet people. But really, it's adding all sorts of value to the business, in that if they have a great company or if they have a great culture in the co-working space, that's something that you automatically inherit and get to add on to instead of having to start from scratch. Now, those are two different things from a co-working space perspective. Now, from a general office space perspective, it's going to fall into a lot of similar traits, right? If you go into a very suburban building that was built in the 80s and hasn't been redone and that generally isn't taken care of, they would consider it maybe a Class B office space. And it's maybe a little on the dingier side compared to a Class A space, you're going to get a certain vibe from that space, right? You get to see how it is when you walk in. You get a certain feel from it. Whereas if you're dealing with a Class A high-rise where you walk in and it's large ceilings and granite, very clean, and they have, food in the building and they have a gym and everything else for amenities for any of the tenants in that building, you get a certain feel for that. And then on top of it, the company can choose to leverage those even more. So they can push those as benefits to working for the organization that's in that building. For example, with the workout room, right? If you have a workout room or a gym or something in the building, well, then that can be pushed as something that makes it easy for you to break away during lunch and get that workout in that you might have missed early in the day. Whereas another building that doesn't have it, detracts from the options that are available. So what I would really like for you to do is just think through all of the different ways that the office environment adds to the company culture, or in some cases, how it detracts from the company culture. So just to recap on a few examples, you have like Friday lunches where everybody gets together, rooftop events or any other type of events, educational events. Food is a very common theme along a lot of these. Then you also have the piece around how the customer feels when they visit your office, if you need to bring them in, all the way down to workout studios and even going further as, are you using those for yoga classes or any other things where people can get in the activities that they need without leaving the office or making them very easy to access. So just think through how your office adds or detracts from the office and company culture.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Epic Company Culture Podcast with Josh Sweeney. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. For additional content and transcripts, visit epicculture.co. If you have questions or topics you would like us to address or expand on, tweet us at epicculture1 or email at podcast@epicculture.co.